Good afternoon and Happy New Year, everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 5th, 2021, and it is the first hearing officer of the month, or hearing officer hearing of the month. We have a reduced agenda from what was previously published, so I'm going to go ahead and announce at the moment the cases that are no longer on the agenda. We've had some issues with numbering as we've had agendas be revised and revised. So I just want to announce that today we have 4 items on our agenda. We have a set of minutes and 3 property abatements. That means the previous abatement requests for the Norwoos property, the Pulver property, the Alvarado Cody property, the IH6 property, and the Huffman property are no longer on this afternoon's agenda. I'm going to read something into the record and then we can go ahead and jump into our cases this afternoon. The City of Tempe Hearing Officer is authorized by Arizona Revised Statutes and the City of Tempe Zoning and Development Code. The hearing officer has the duty to carry out the provisions and the intent of the Zoning Code, or Zoning and Development Code, and the Tempe City Code. The hearing officer is granted authority to conduct public hearings to decide upon the abatement of code violations occurring on properties within the City of Tempe. Abatement actions are brought before the hearing officer by the city's Code Compliance Division, typically after numerous attempts at contacting the property owner to obtain voluntary compliance with the code. The hearing officer may issue an order directing the property owner, occupant, rental agent, property manager, or any other responsible person to abate a code violation or to authorize the city to abate the condition giving rise to the violation. The cost of such abatement is the responsibility of the property owner of the property where the violation occurred and may be collected as an assessment against the property found to be in violation. Any property owner who's aggrieved by a decision of the hearing officer may file an appeal within 14 calendar days after the hearing officer has made a decision. As such, the deadline for appealing any decision rendered today is 3 p.m. on January 19th, 2021. Abatement appeals are heard by the Board of Adjustment, after which they may also be appealed to the Superior Court. And the property owner has 14 days to either file an appeal or bring the property into code compliance. If neither of these things happen by this date, the property will be abated by the city. Just to make some introductions, joining me this afternoon from Community Development are to my left, Shelby Meyer, and to my right, Drew Yoakum. First item on our agenda this afternoon is a set of minutes from December 1st, 2020. I had a chance to review those minutes in the packet that I was sent by city staff, and I believe that they accurately reflect what took place at that hearing. So I'm approving the minutes from December 1st, 2020. The next item on our agenda is a request for abatement of public nuisance items at the Sanchez property. This is located at 535 East Broadway Road. The applicant is the City of Tempe, represented this afternoon by Jack Schofield. Mr. Schofield.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Jack Schofield, Code Inspector with the City of Tempe, here today requesting a 180-day open abatement for the property at 535 East Broadway Road, Tempe, Arizona 85282. This is to address deteriorated landscape on the property, to include very large dead trees scattered throughout, and overheight grass and weeds and trash and debris as well on the property. There was notifications mailed out to the next of kin. I'm sorry, let me back up. The property owners are both deceased for the property, so there was notification mailed out to the next of kin. Before this was submitted, there was no contact from the next of kin. However, he did contact me yesterday and asked for more time. I just advised him that I was going to move forward with the abatement hearing, that he would still have time afterwards to bring the property into compliance. Due to the fact that we're still getting complaints on the one tree that's on the west side of the property, is a very large eucalyptus tree, and it's actually overhanging the residence to the west of them. And that residence is afraid that that tree is going to fall down on their property.
Those trees are brittle.
Yes.
You know, as they get bigger.
So I do have some photos that I took today of the property. The next of kin did take down a couple of the trees, the very small ones. However, there's some very large ones that are still out there.
Okay.
That's the one that's on the west side that's actually overhanging that residence. There's very large branches that are
Okay.
overhanging on that. Another one that's on the front of the property is dead as well.
Okay.
And then in the back, there's the overheight grass and weeds that's dead. And
Yeah, so he understands that if he takes care of this in the next 2 weeks, then we won't debate.
correct, and that's
Okay.
what I explained to the gentleman.
Okay, and none of these projects, I'll call them, seem to be do-it-yourself projects. I mean, those trees are large and are going to require some expertise to get up there and get them down. So he may find it more cost-effective to have us, to have the city do it for him, you know, and a win for the neighborhood as well, since they're complaining about it. Is the property owner on the line?
We have not received any communication at this time.
Okay, thank you. Well then, thank you for the photographs from this afternoon. I agree with your assessment. Maybe he'll, you know, get his act together and take the next couple of weeks and clean it up, but if he doesn't, you have the tool that you need to go ahead and abate the property. So I'm approving the request contained in CM 201537.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, you too.
The next item on the agenda is a request for abatement of public nuisance items at the Jableski property. This property is located at 3231 South Burchett Drive. The applicant is the City of Tempe, represented this afternoon by Michael Glab.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. My name is Michael Glab. I'm Residential Code Inspector for the City of Tempe and Code Compliance Division. I'm here this evening to request an abatement for the property located at 3231 South Burchett Drive here in Tempe. This case was initiated on February 13th of 2020 related to a dead tree located in the backyard of the property. One complaint in total has been received by my office. I have not had any communication with the property owner. I have received communications, though, from Ken Gibleski. He's a former co-owner as of 2013 on the deed. However, in 2013, the deed went solely to Maureen Gibleski. On February 14th, I visited the property and confirmed there was a dead tree located near the northwest corner of the parcel. I sent a violation notice to the property owner requesting that the violation be remedied. On April 10th of 2020, I visited the property and confirmed that the dead tree remained in the backyard. I then sent a second violation notice to the property owner requesting that the violation be remedied. On May 29th of 2020, I visited the property and confirmed that the dead tree remained in the backyard landscape. I then posted a violation notice to the front of the structure requesting that the violation be remedied. On August 31st of 2020, I visited the property and confirmed that the dead tree remained, and then I issued a civil citation to the property owner. On September 1st, I posted that citation to the front of the structure itself. On October 9th of 2020, I then received a subpoena for court in the name of Ken Gibleski, even though the citation had been issued to Maureen Gibleski. As none of the notices had been addressed to Ken, I did request dismissal as there was a lack of informing him of the violation. He could successfully argue in court that he was never notified. On November 18th of 2020, I returned to the property and then posted a notice of intent to abate to the front of the structure. On December 16th of 2020, I then did receive a voicemail from Ken Gibleski stating that he received my notice to abate. He felt that he didn't have the 30 days plus notice, that the branches overhanging the alleyway had been trimmed up to a height that were sufficient to allow garbage trucks, construction vehicles, things of that nature to travel down unobstructed. But that he would someday cut down the tree. He didn't have a specified date. It would be sometime in the future. At this time, I'd like to now present photos taken today of the existing violations at the property.
Thank you.
So this is taken from the alleyway behind the property, and as you can see, there's two rather large pine trees with the majority of the branches brown or blackened gray hanging downwards. This angle, due to the sunlight, is not as good as the next photo I'm about to present. And this photo was taken from the east side of the property. As you can see that there's a significant amount of the trees that are dead. The portion that are still green are approximately a quarter or less. That condition hasn't changed over the course of the past year. So as far as it being a seasonal change or something of that nature, that's not at all the case. At this time, I'm requesting approval for an abatement for this property for removal of the dead trees located at 3231 South Burchett Drive here in Tempe.
Thank you. I appreciate the updated photos, by the way, because it sometimes is hard to gauge whether they're seasonal, just trees that are getting ready to drop their leaves. Do we have anyone on the phone? Is the property owner?
Yes, I believe we do have one person on the line.
Okay. Thank you. Then I'm going to go ahead and ask for you to say your name and city of residence. If you can hear me, caller.
I can hear you, ma'am.
Thank you. Who am I
My name
speaking
is-
to?
My name is Ken Gibleski. I am the husband of Maureen Gibleski.
Okay, thank you. Do you live at this property, or are you just a part owner of the property?
Oh, no, we have lived at this property for just under 24 and a half years right now.
Okay. So you've seen the photographs and you heard, I assume, how Mr. Glab presented your case this afternoon. What would you like to add to the state of the property and your intentions to remediate the tree?
Well, I would definitely look to having that first tree. There are two of them. There's one that's about 30, I'm going to take a while, it gets about 36 feet tall. That's the larger of the trees. That one is still more than about, I'm going to say 2/3 alive. I'll have the other tree that's closer to the alleyway is the one that I had trimmed. And unfortunately, Mr. Glab never returned my phone calls. One case in October ended up, it was either in October or in November that it was finally, I went to court in person and it was dismissed. And I heard Mr. Glab mention that he went for that dismissal. My wife and I, neither of us had ever received a letter here at the house. And again, we've been here for 24 and a half years. We definitely have been here 24/7 almost during the entire COVID situation, being that we're both in our 70s. I did have I'm holding the letters that I received. One dated, both dated 11/17. They're duplicates for some reason. And I contacted and left a message for Mr. Glab because on the letter it had about removing dead pine tree limbs, not removing a dead pine tree. And so I had the trees, all the dead limbs cut so that they would be clearance of a height of at least 13 feet. It ended up being just under 20 feet for the garbage truck to have clearance to make its rounds, because the big can is about 10 feet aside from the tree, but the tree had those limbs there. And I definitely, my wife definitely would like to have all intention of having the time to get the tree removed fully, not just the limbs, but the tree. If it would have stayed the tree, and maybe I should have taken a closer look. But again, when I looked at the letter of it, and it said dead pine tree limbs. I mean, Jesus, we've never had an issue like that here in the 24 and a half years we've been in our house. And just one little comment: the fact that it's been sent to Maureen Gibleski when we closed on our house on August 1st of 1996. I was working and I could not attend a closing, and so they crossed my name off and they put the house in Maureen's name. And so for a lot of years it stayed that way until we refinanced and everything. Anyway, we do request time to have the tree totally removed. We will be happy to take care of it and happy not to have the expense of the cost of the abatement by the city of Tempe. I don't want to have anything endangering anybody. When we had our big haboob way back when, we had another 38-foot pine tree, and that got damaged. And I requested from my insurance company that they consider, I sent them pictures, consider having the tree removed. We didn't want to have any possible accidents or damage or personal or property to any of our neighbors. And so we definitely don't want that for anybody here also. And so we do request some time to be able to make arrangements to have the tree removed. Person that does that kind of stuff for me in our 6 palm trees is recovering from a surgery, and I'd have to check and see, with your permission, when he'd be able to take down the tree.
Well, here's the dilemma that I face. In terms of notification, the city uses the county assessor's contact information. So whoever, whatever the address is and the name that the Maricopa County assessor has for your property, that's who notifications have been sent to. In his presentation, Mr. Glab indicated that this case went back to February of last year. So we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of this case being opened by virtue of complaints from within your neighborhood. I don't know, how many complaints there are. I don't know who the complainants are. But nevertheless, this is an issue to your neighbors. And even, let's, for a moment, say that the first notice you've actually received was in November, which, I don't know, that's kind of a stretch. That's a long period.
Right.
But let's, for the moment, say that is the case. It's now January, so you've had, almost 60 days to take care of the problem, and nothing has taken place within that time. If
Well,
I
we did-
approve, let me just continue.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, excuse me.
Okay, if I approve the abatement today, you will have 2 weeks during which you can have the tree taken down fully, like your intention is for the smaller one. It sounds like you want to keep the larger one that's only partially dead, but
Oh, yeah,
that'll give you 2 weeks. So if you can get that done within 2 weeks, then the abatement goes away. But, this is a tool that we give our code compliance inspectors so that in the event such as this, where attempts have been made to contact the property owner, there's not been any response and no improvement to the property, we as a city are allowed to go in and take care of the property for you. I understand you are in your 70s. I hope that you're not intending to climb up into these trees yourself and fix the problem. So I know you have to get someone else to do it. But I think 2 weeks is a reasonable time frame to allow a landscaper or an arborist or whoever it is that you're going to choose to take care of the problem. I also wanted to let you know the standard in the city isn't just clearance for the garbage trucks, for the solid waste trucks. The standard that we look to achieve is to remove deteriorated landscaping. So even though a lot of the larger tree is still living, we don't want to take down a living tree, but we do need to clean up the tree and remove the deteriorated portion of that tree. So is 2 weeks, do you think you can get something accomplished in 2 weeks?
To be completely honest, I would have to make the phone call so I can contact the person that does our landscaping, again, the big things, and find out if they're back in gear or if he's a week or 2 out or whatever, because he did the clearance. His son did the clearance for the 18 feet. Again, my misunderstanding on that. if Mr. And so I just need to contact them and find out if they're okay, so that I can get that done within the 2 weeks. If he weren't, and it took me 2 weeks to get somebody, then it might take 3 weeks, or you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's all a matter of if he's healthy enough to come and do it, because he would be the one to do it, not his helper. And so I would definitely take care of that at the soonest possible time.
Okay, well, I understand you're at the mercy of others and their workload and work schedules and, if they're recovering from surgery. But what I'd like to do is this. I want to go ahead and approve this abatement so that our code compliance inspector has the tool that he needs to keep the momentum towards getting this situation resolved as soon as possible. So that will give you those 14 days. If you stay in communication with Mr. Glab and let him know the status, that, maybe you can't get it done in 2 weeks, but you can get it done in 3. I would encourage Mr. Glab to work with you and not implement the abatement, on day 15, but to work with you. And if we have evidence that you will be getting this problem solved, then he can stay the abatement. But I think it sounds like you want to get the property cleaned up in a satisfactory schedule, but I'd like to give him the tool that he needs to keep that process moving.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I just ask one thing.
Okay.
If you could have Mr. Glad please be respectful enough that in the 4 times I've called him, he's never returned a call when I've asked for a call back, because it wasn't just a one-way thing. It was making communication. And the first time was when we found a piece of blue tape in our garage and never saw a posted notice on the garage. But we took the initiative then to say, okay, who's going to leave blue tape? Let's check with the city. And we did, and that was the first time I tried to contact Mr. Glab, and that was around Labor Day. And 4 times I called him. He mentioned the one time, but none of the 4 times did he ever give me a call back. And
Okay.
so, should I just do it from now and keep in communication with him strictly on an email basis, or will he commit to responding to my call, so I don't have any problem then with your hearing office with the abatement?
I tend to think email is the best method of communication. It leaves a trail and it's easily answered, and you don't have to rely, these guys are out in the field a lot of times and not, sitting at desks and immediately available. So I would encourage email. And I will encourage Mr. Glab to stay in communication with you for the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So that we can get this taken care of. But I appreciate your willingness to participate in the process and your willingness to remediate the situation in your backyard.
Oh,
So-
definitely. We live on a cul-de-sac street. There's probably 9 homes, and we've been here, as I mentioned, 24 and a half years. At one time, I was the young person on the street. Now I'm the old guy on the street. But everybody's always maintained that thing of keeping their properties in good stead. And so I don't want to change my way of doing that. And even though it's in the backyard, I want to make sure we get this taken care of properly.
Okay.
And I appreciate your allowing me to do this.
Well, thank you very much. So do we have any other members of the public wanting to speak on this item?
None at this time.
No. Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Gableski, for your input. I'm going to close the public comment portion of the hearing. Given the testimony we heard today from the property owner and from code compliance, as I mentioned, I'm going to approve the abatement request contained in CE 200963 and encourage both our code compliance inspector and the property owner to work together over the next 2 weeks and perhaps give a little latitude on the end of those 2 weeks if we have evidence that this cleanup is moving forward. Thank you very much. That brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is agenda item number 8, I believe, which is a request for abatement of public nuisance items at the McNamee property. This property is located at 2428 East Malibu Drive. The applicant is the City of Tempe, represented again by Mr. Glab.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. Michael Glab, Code Inspector for the City of Tempe for Code Compliance Division. I'm here tonight to request an abatement for the property located at 2428 East Malibu Drive, Tempe, Arizona 85282. This case originated on July 10th of 2020 related to an inoperable vehicle located in the driveway of the property. One complaint has been received by my office. I have not had any communication with the property owner, but I have received communications from a resident of the property, Mr. Brown. On July 10th of 2020, I visited the property and confirmed there was an inoperable truck located in the driveway, displaying a clearly visible flat tire. I sent a violation notice to the property owner requesting that the violation be remedied. On August 4th of 2020, I returned to the property and confirmed that there was an inoperable truck located in the driveway with the visible flat tire. I then sent a second violation notice to the property owner requesting that the violation be remedied. On August 20th of 2020, I received a voicemail from the resident, Mr. Brown, who requested an extension due to an unspecified date due to health issues. On August 27th of 2020, I called Mr. Brown, reached his voicemail, requested that he call me back with a specific date of the planned extension. On September 8th of 2020, I called Mr. Brown once again, reached his voicemail, left him a message requesting that he call me back with a planned date for his extension. I did not hear back from Mr. Brown, so on September 30th of 2020, I visited the property and confirmed that the truck remained inoperable in the driveway. I then posted a violation notice to the front of the structure. On October 15th of 2020, I visited the property, confirmed that the truck remained inoperable in the driveway, and issued a civil citation to the owner of the property. I then posted that citation to the front of the structure of the property. On December 4th of 2020, I visited the property and posted a notice of intent to abate to the front of the structure. At this time, I would like to present photos taken of the existing violation at the property.
Thank you.
This is a property, a front photo of 2428 East Malibu Drive here in Tempe. The pickup in question here is on the east side of the driveway, and the tire in question is going to be the rear passenger side. This one's at a distance, but I do have a closer photo showing the flat tire. And as you can see here, the rubber is moving out the side, the rim is touching the concrete. By comparison to the front photo, there's obviously some distance there between the rim and the concrete. So in light of the vehicle being flat now for the past 5 months and no response from my attempts to contact the resident, I'm seeking an abatement approval for this property to tow the vehicle from 2428 East Malibu Drive here in Tempe.
Is the vehicle registered?
I believe that the registration was current at the time of my inspection.
Okay, thank you. I just couldn't tell because we don't have front plates here, and so the plate would be facing the back. Is there anyone from the public, the property owner, wanting to speak on this item?
We've had no communication at this time.
Okay, thank you. Well, given the lack of responsiveness to any of your notices to the property owner, I only have your observations. Clearly, it's an inoperable vehicle that needs to be taken care of. So I am going to go ahead, and no members of the public wanting to speak, so I'm going to go ahead and approve the abatement for the McNamee property located at 2428 East Malibu, contained in CE 204613. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer.
That concludes our agenda for this afternoon. I believe our next meeting is on January 19th, or are we going into February?
That is correct. We have one more meeting this month on January 19th.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, with no other announcements, we're adjourned.